Hi, everybody. I'm Johnathan Champion with the District Department of the Environment, Stormwater Management Division in Washington, D.C. I'm going to run through some of the frequently asked questions and then hopefully MC some of the any of the questions from the audience or out on the web. The first FAQ that we sort of anticipated, the big one is how our locality is going to be able to find out how much credit they can take for those statewide nutrient reduction credits. As I think we just went over, there's a process spelled out for calculating those nitrogen and phosphorus credits at a statewide level. How that gets applied to localities, I think, is still somewhat to be determined. The recommendation from the panel report is that those statewide reductions basically should be incorporated into the currently existing assessment tools like Scenario Builder, MAST, CAST, what have you, as a unit load reduction factor, which would then be applied to the amount of pervious acreage in a given locality. How that actually gets done, I think, is still up in the air and to be determined. The next question that we had was who's going to be in a position of determining whether or not it's appropriate for a locality to either use a nutrient management plan or a nutrient management pledge. And again, I think this is one that we'd expect to vary somewhat on a state-by-state basis. It's going to be the state planning agencies that are in the driver's seat on making that determination. The report sort of spells out, and I think we've highlighted the tracking and accountability mechanisms that we'd want to be built into a full nutrient management plan to be credited. It'll be up to the states to determine if the slightly less intensive nutrient management pledge would be something that would be available to a locality. And what about conservation landscaping? This was an interesting one for the panel. I think it was, there was a fair amount of discussion of this, and I think as a general or a broad concept, I think there was, a lot of discussion and a lot of expectation that was being addressed or built into the core urban nutrient management practices that we were discussing all along the way. When it actually came to reaching consensus on a definition for what conservation landscaping would actually look like in a way that's supported by the literature that we reviewed, we couldn't actually reach a common ground on what that definition would look like. So it was kind of set aside, at least for the purposes of urban nutrient management plans, but we definitely want to point out that homeowners, as a homeowner practice, it would still be creditable and still be addressed under the stream buffer and the filter strip practice. And the last one that we wanted to note was we've heard through the presentation some of the unique aspects in terms of legislation in Maryland when it comes to nitrogen credits. So what are the nutrient management credits that a locality in Maryland might be able to take credit for? We wanted to address that, and I actually think Tom wanted to speak to that a bit.
But very quickly, in Maryland, one of the big issues for the expert panels is they have to prevent unintended consequences and double counting. So since Maryland is taking a statewide credit for its nitrogen fertilizer law and its phosphorus fertilizer law, it leaves very little for local governments to get urban nutrient management plans on. So if you're Montgomery County, I think I saw Steve is here, if you write urban nutrient management plans, you only get credit for ones that are not fertilized and that are high risk. So it's a much smaller subset for you than for the state of Virginia. But again, that's just to prevent double counting. And the big issue, as you alluded to earlier, is although I've told you you're getting free reductions, it may be a while before the state figures out exactly what your reductions would be at a local level.